What's going on, everyone? Sean Highkin here from Odds Checker. Opening night of the 2020 to 21 NBA season is in the books, but Wednesday night is the real opening night for most of the league. There's going to be games on all evening, all different kinds of stuff to flip through onto League Pass, and I just want to take a look at a few things that I think are worth highlighting from this pretty crowded slate. There's a lot of good games on, but there's a few bets that I kind of like. So in the Cavs-Hornets game, LaMelo Ball's highly anticipated NBA debut. You can get the over for his assists, over under is 5.5. You can get the over at plus 112 on FanDuel right now. And I like that bet because, we've seen in the preseason some of these crazy highlight passes that he's been throwing. And I think once we get to the regular season, he's going to want to show that he can do that in a real game. And so I think you're going to see him kind of gunning for those assists, so to speak. And then he also just hasn't been shooting the ball very well. So I think in his first game, he's going to kind of be focusing more on being a facilitator, especially against a team that's not very good like Cleveland. So I like the over for his assists there on FanDuel. Now, the Wizards and the Sixers. Philly right now is favored at minus 7.5. I think that line is kind of high just because I think there's going to be growing pains for both teams. It's going to be Russell Westbrook's first game in a Wizards uniform, and it's going to be the first game for kind of this new-look Sixers team. They've got a new coach in Doc Rivers, and they've got some new supporting guys in Danny Green, Seth Curry, a couple of other guys. I don't think either side is going to be dominant here. I think it's going to be just a little bit of a closer game. Philly will probably win. I think Philly's the more talented team, but I just don't think it's going to be a blowout. So I would take Washington to cover at plus 7.5. You can get those odds at minus 110 on pretty much most books right now that you look at. Now, Pelicans-Raptors. This is going to be a really interesting game. Obviously, Toronto lost a bunch of guys, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol. They lost some guys in the offseason, and then this is kind of the Pelicans' first game with Stan Van Gundy as a head coach, but also this slimmed down Zion Williamson, and their first game with no Drew Holiday. Eric Bledsoe's kind of getting worked in there. There's a prop that you can get for right now at plus 158 on FanDuel that says that Brandon Ingram will score more points than Zion Williamson. And obviously Zion has looked incredible in the preseason. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks like he's in a lot better shape than he was in the bubble. I think they're still, at least early on in the season, going to be monitoring his minutes and kind of making sure that, being maybe overly cautious with him, maybe not to the extent that they were last season when he was barely able to play for more than like 5 minutes at a time. But I still have enough concerns about his, the amount that they're going to let him play early on, that I think it's a pretty safe bet that Brandon Ingram is going to score more points than him, especially, Brandon Ingram just won Most Improved Player. He just got a big contract. He kind of is still seen as sort of the first option on offense, at least for right now. Long term, obviously, that's still Zion, but they're kind of still integrating Zion in because he has really not had a consistent role for this entire time that he's been in the league, basically just because he's been in and out for so long. So that's a bet that I like there. Now, the Bucks are playing the Celtics, one of the games that I think is one of the more interesting ones on this schedule tonight, just because, it's obviously Giannis, like this, the new look Bucks, Drew Holiday's there, Giannis just signed his extension, and then the Celtics are a team that I actually really like a lot to compete for, one of the top spots in the East this season. The over-under for Giannis's points is 27.5. You can get the under right now for plus 102 at DraftKings, and I just think, it's the first game of the season. They might, given what we saw kind of in the playoffs and also just, in the regular season, Giannis doesn't play a ton of minutes. And I think early on, especially if this game is a blowout, which it might be, or, in either direction, I just don't think Giannis is going to play enough minutes to really get to, 27, 28, 30 points. And plus the Celtics defense is so good. I think the under is probably the way to go here. Now, the late game of the night, Mavs-Suns. Pretty excited about this one. It's obviously Luka, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. There are going to be points scored, and probably not a lot of defense. The over-under for total points in this game is 237.5. You can get the over on MGM at plus 100 right now. I think this one's going to be a shootout. I think, just given kind of all that offensive firepower that there is, Luka and Devin Booker alone, I wouldn't be surprised if those two guys both go for 30 each. And then there's plenty of guys besides them on either one of those teams that I think, could go off. Obviously, even with Kristaps Porzingis out, Dallas is going to have, Josh Richardson has shot the ball really well in preseason. Maybe that's going to carry over. And then Chris Paul obviously can still score. DeAndre Ayton can fill it up. I think that the over for total points scored is a good pick for that game. Anyway, this has been Sean Highkin with Odds Checker. I'll be back with you guys to preview the Christmas games on Friday.